In November 1984, 16-year-old Teresa Fusco disappeared while walking home from her job at a local roller rink in Lynbrook, New York. Several weeks later, her body was found buried under leaves and debris near the town's railroad tracks. The discovery sent a wave of panic through the quiet suburban community. Citizens demanded answers, and immense pressure fell on the Nassau County Police Department to find a suspect immediately. When law enforcement operates under that kind of intense public scrutiny, closing the case can sometimes take priority over finding the objective truth. When that happens, the groundwork for a catastrophic failure of the justice system is laid. After months of dead ends, police narrowed their focus on 3 local men: John Kogut, John Restivo, and Dennis Halstead. At the time, there was no physical evidence linking any of them to the crime scene. But lead homicide detective Joseph Fulpe had made up his mind. If the evidence required to secure a conviction didn't exist naturally, the investigation would shift strategies to ensure that it did. Instead of following the facts, the department began constructing a narrative to fit their chosen suspects, turning 3 innocent men into convenient targets. The first pillar of the state's case was built in an interrogation room. Police subjected John Kogut to a grueling 18-hour psychological assault by deliberately depriving him of basic food and sleep. Exhausted and broken, Kogut finally gave the detectives exactly what they wanted. He signed a statement that falsely implicated himself, Restivo, and Halstead in the murder. The reality of extreme psychological duress is that isolation and exhaustion can compel an innocent person to admit to a horrific act just to make the interrogation stop. To bolster the confession, the state presented 2 hairs, allegedly belonging to Teresa, discovered on the floor of John Restivo's van. It was the only physical proof linking the men to the victim. Decades later, post-mortem root banding dismantled this evidence. This diagram shows a hair root attached to the scalp. After death, bacteria create a dark band at the root. The hairs in the van exhibited this banding, proving they didn't fall naturally during a live abduction. The evidence pointed to a much darker reality. Detective Fulpe had physically removed those hairs from Teresa's body during her autopsy and placed them in the van's evidence bag. The very biological markers the state used to convict these men ultimately provided objective proof of a deliberate police frame-up. By 2003, forensic science had caught up. Modern DNA testing was performed on an intact vaginal swab, and the results conclusively excluded all 3 men as the source of the biological material. Despite this scientific exoneration, the district attorney refused to concede. They opted to retry Kogut by arguing Teresa had consensual sex with someone else before her death, and that the suspect simply left no biological trace. During the 2005 retrial, the judge rejected this theory. He declared Kogut actually innocent, prompting the state to finally dismiss the remaining charges against Restivo and Halstead. Rather than admit a catastrophic mistake, the justice system will sometimes lean on unproven scientific theories to protect an existing conviction. After spending 18 years behind bars, the men were free. They later won a historic $36 million civil judgment against the county for the fabricated evidence. But a mystery lingered. If the Lynbrook 3 were innocent, whose DNA profile was actually sitting in the federal database? Financial restitution helps repair a life, but it doesn't answer the question of who actually committed the murder. The answer arrived in 2024. Investigators used forensic genetic genealogy, utilizing public DNA databases to finally track the 40-year-old cold case. By tracking the DNA through family trees, they zeroed in on Richard Bilodeau. In 1984, he lived less than a mile from where Teresa worked. Police surveillance secured a discarded smoothie straw from Bilodeau, allowing investigators to extract a DNA match to the crime scene. The killer who slipped through the cracks of 1980s investigation was ultimately undone by his own garbage and the exactitude of modern genomic data. In October 2025, Bilodeau was indicted for murder. The arrest closed the loop on 4 decades of grief for the family and 18 years of injustice for the wrongfully convicted. While human bias can derail the law for decades, the physical reality of DNA provides an objective record that eventually corrects the truth.